500 million cedis to ghost names on the NSS payroll between 2018 and 2024. Stay with us as we explore how internal and external audits fail to expose this.
Investigations have revealed a sprawling criminal enterprise whose network covers the entire country. This criminal enterprise was run by top-level executives of the National Service Authority and their accomplices in the private sector, known as vendors.
Well, also coming up tonight, Labour analyst urges government to avoid action that will make nurses and midwives rescind decision to suspend their strike. Details as chairman of the Health Committee assures nurses of relaying concerns to the Presidency.
We call on our dear nurses and midwives to resume their normal shift duties from Saturday, 14th June 2025.
Tonight we'll bring you updates from our world of business, and here IMF reviews cedi gains, could influence future adjustments to Ghana's economic program. How will this influence the IMF bailout? Tonight we'll get you more in business.
We look at a program, we look at all of these developments, including, of course, developments in the exchange rate.
And on the international front, global oil prices soar after Israel's attack on Iran. We'll look at the impact of this on fuel prices in Ghana. Tonight we have these and many other interesting stories, including sports and some business news. Stay with us as we bring you all these stories and many more. My name is Kweku. Thank you very much for choosing GHOne TV. Let's take our very first story for this evening. And here, 2 former directors of the National Service Authority and 10 other directors, including former Deputy Executive Director Gifty Owari Mensah, will face charges in connection with a major financial scandal at the National Service Scheme, that's the NSS, involving losses exceeding some 548 million Ghana cedis. Well, earlier today, Attorney General Dr. Dominic Ayene outlined government's anti-corruption efforts under Operation Recover All Loot, that's oral, focusing on the National Service Authority. Well, he stated that the investigations have been completed and legal proceedings will commence in the coming days. The legal affairs correspondent Mutala Enusa has more.
The Attorney General of the Republic, Dr. Dominic Ayene, has been providing some updates on Operation Recover or Loot. The focus of his public engagement on the National Service Authority scandal, an amount of over 500 million cedis are said to have been lost by the state through the actions and inactions of some officers. And the AG has been giving breakdowns on how this whole amount got to that sum.
Our investigations have revealed a sprawling criminal enterprise whose network covers the entire country. This criminal enterprise was run by top-level executives of the National Service Authority and their accomplices in the private sector, known as vendors or service providers. This criminal enterprise resulted in the siphoning of huge sums of public funds into private pockets. In total, we can confirm from our evidence on the docket and from interrogations that a whopping 548,333,542 cedis and 65 pesos. That's how accurate. 18,962 cedis and 24 pesos was lost. In the 2020-2021 service year, 55,670,584 cedis and 32 pesos was siphoned. In the 2022-2023 service year, this is the one that is more surprising and very shocking. 350,926,977 cedis and 7 pesos were lost.
Who are these individuals who are behind these financial malfeasance?
Mustafa Yusuf, a former executive director. Osea Sibe Entry, former director general. Gifty Owari Mensah, former deputy executive director. Kweku Ohinijan, former deputy executive director for operations. Abraham Bismarck Gezi, former internal auditor. Kweku Dechi Eje, an accounts officer. Idrusu Ibn Abubakar, former head of accounts. Stephen Kobina Jemfi, we've asked that he should be rearrested because we've discovered some new accounts that, contain some deposits. And so he was picked up this morning. So he is currently he's undergoing further interrogation. Koforidua, he's the Koforidua director. Then Prince Agofa Ewuku, a district director, and Jacob Yosin, management information systems administrator in the northern region.
The Attorney General has been giving some provisional charges that these persons are expected to face.
Our position is clear that these persons are reasonably suspected to have committed crimes and shall be charged accordingly with the following crimes: stealing, contrary to section 1241 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29. Conspiracy to steal, contrary to sections 23.1 and 124.1 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. Willfully causing financial loss to the state, contrary to section 179A3A of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. Using public office for profit, contrary to section 179CA of the Criminal and Other Offences Act. Obtaining public property by false statements, contrary to section 5 of the Public Property Protection Decree 1977, SMCD 140. Money laundering, contrary to section 1, subsection 2C of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020, Act 1044. And conspiracy to commit money laundering, contrary to section 3 of the Anti-Money Laundering Act 2020, Act 1020.
In the coming days, it is expected that these persons would be arraigned from the Information Service Department here in Accra, which allow you to do, sir. GHOne.
All right, so tonight you can join us on this particular story on our social media platforms. But Legal Affairs correspondent Mutala Enusa has joined me right here in the studio. Definitely you'd want to get more updates on this particular development. Mutala, thank you very much. So we're talking about 548 million. Whooping amount in there. Help me, Mutala. Let my viewers understand the breakdown of these funds.
Yes. So Kweku, this thing that we are talking about started from 2018. The year 2018, 2019 service year to 2023, 2024 service year. Quite interesting revelation that were coming out. So if you look at the figures that have been projected on your screens right now, so we have the service year and we have amount lost to national service person through ghost names. They're very interesting. So I was talking to you about the fact that 2018, 2019 service year, over 25 million Ghana cedis was lost through ghost names. 2019, 2020, over 21 million Ghana cedi was lost through ghost names. 2020, 2021, 555 million Ghana cedis was lost through ghost names. And we'll tell you more. 2021, 2022, over 61 million Ghana cedis was lost. 2022, 2023, now look at the figure. 350 million.
That's
over.
The Attorney General describes
absolutely whooping million Ghana cedi. That is the year 2022, 2023 service year. 2024, give her 32 million Ghana cedis. Then the total sum, over 548 million Ghana cedis. And these are the breakdown that the Attorney General has been giving. So this is the total loss of money that the state has done within the 6-year period through ghost names. And that is how this whole scandal has come about, and for which reason the Attorney General deems it fit that, look, let's engage the people who gave the government the mandate to understand what is happening, especially through Operation Recover All Loots.
All right, so quickly, I mean, just on your screens now are some faces. Let me quickly get the key substance. But before then, let me alert our viewers that Gifty Owari's picture showed early on that when you were breaking down the fund, she was not responsible all those years. Am I right?
Absolutely. She came in at some point in time, and the role that she played, very staggering if you look at the details that the Attorney General actually gave. But some interesting names appeared in there. Mustafa Yusuf, does it ring a bell to you? A short while ago, the sports minister, yes, his name popped out, the former National Service Executive Director, also a former Minister for Sport. His name popped up there in the Attorney General's description of persons who were involved in this whole scandal. Then Gifty Owari, we note what happened. She arrived from outside Ghana, she was picked up, and we heard the controversies and all of that. Her name appeared, even including the husband. We'll tell you more shortly. Osesibe Entry, also a former director, was also involved in this whole scandal that the Attorney General has been telling us about through some ghost names, through accounts that they have created, shifting, and even using some vendors to be able to perpetrate this alleged act that the AG mentioned about.
I'm happy you talked about alleged, but just a short while ago you gave us a snippet of, how some personalities were involved, and you tell us shortly. Let's not take time. Go ahead, tell us. Gifty Owari's husband. How does this man come in? He doesn't actually work at the Secretariat.
So I have with me the document from that the AG used to address the media. And Kweku, it makes the point that Gifty Owari created and executed a meticulously detailed plan. And at some point in time, she achieved these results by using other people's information to register a company called Blocks of Life Consort without the knowledge of these persons or their permission. And guess what the AG said in relation to that? It makes the point that she presented Blocks of Life Consort through a middleman in the person of one Maswell Kwesi Ofori-Minta to an official of Agricultural Development Bank, enlisting her husband, Peter Mensah, a lawyer, to act as a director or representative of the said company. She went on to say that she told the ADB that the company specialized in supplying her home appliances to national service persons and proposed that ADB finance the company to enable it to supply these items, and at the end it was discovered that that company does not even exist to supply a national service with all the things, these home appliances and all of that. And the husband was listed as one of the directors. That is how come the husband's name was mentioned in this whole thing. And it ended up that she succeeded in enlisting about over 9,000 ghost names in this whole matter, and monies were lost by the states.
Mutala, detailed breakdown there. We're grateful, and we know you will stay on the matter as and when it's in court. You bring us up to speed on some of the issues that would crop up. But let's still stay on as anti-graft campaigner Adam Senan, who has joined me right now. Adam, thank you very much. I'm sure a short while ago you were listening to Mutala Enusa on all his breakdown there. What's your initial reaction to the Attorney General's decision to prosecute 12 individuals over the NSS ghost name scandal, finally making headway in the efforts to recover loots?
Well, we are happy to note that this whole oral adventure is not just hanging in space without us making progress. Indeed, it is good to know that the AG is constantly, as it were, sensitizing us and making some progress in terms of identifying persons who are culpable or reportedly engaged in this kind of graft, and is going to take the actions necessary to get them before court. The event itself is quite shocking. I mean, it would seem as if these individuals never expected to be caught, because otherwise one would not so intentionally work together to defraud the state. So they must have felt that our systems were weak enough so they will get away with this kind of action. And that's probably the most concern I have at the moment, that what were the systemic weaknesses that allowed individuals to collaborate in this criminal enterprise and get away with, siphoning off such huge sums of money? What are the systems or actions that ought to have identified and raised red flags much earlier?
Well, I'm a little bit concerned here. Now, how significant is it that a certain MP, and we've mentioned already, is among the accused persons?
It's actually rather distressing because one would assume that persons of certain stature would recognize the high risk involved in such matters and avoid getting themselves embroiled in any such activities. The nature of the persons involved, and not just the MP, the others themselves are not just low-level staff who work together all the way to the top of the entity. That speaks volumes. And so it is worrying. It probably just indicates that a certain level of impunity was beginning to take hold. And it's good that this was uncovered. Hopefully, if there are any such persons still engaged in these activities within the NSS system or in other sectors, hopefully they'll take note.
Well, Adam Senanu, I am worried about the time this is coming out. Why? Because, see, internal, external audits, all conducted around the period till this time, and this issue never came out. Until this time. Are you concerned as I am concerned, or you think some auditors didn't do their work right?
It is very likely that some auditors didn't do their work right, because I kept saying, listen, if the collusion is of the internal, then the question is that the independent external audit processes, how come they did not uncover this? Wasn't there anyone to do a random sampling of those engaged in these activities? The circuit supervisors, were they checking whether there were such NSS persons at post? So we still need to do some introspection relating to our current system and why they failed. Because ordinarily this should not have happened.
Adam, so just kindly go ahead.
To the extent that it happened, we can conclude that some parts of our system are weak. And if we don't address that, the likelihood that this could happen again is very high.
Let's talk about how to address some of these issues. Would you then support calls for a special court or tribunal to fast-track such financial crimes?
Indeed, specialized court for anti-corruption activities would really inure to the benefit of this country. A few months ago, I was in Kenya, and we were talking about how they have 12 specialized anti-corruption courts where on a daily basis, you don't go to court and they'll say, come back next month for the next hearing, and then you're going to end up doing 5 to 7 years. No. Daily sittings on the same matter, allowing them to dispense of issues rapidly, making sure that these are in the public domain, so that it serves as a very strong deterrent to those who may think that they could get away with such actions. And I think that, yes, it's about time we seriously consider specialized, including also, legislating on lifestyle audit. That also will be very helpful, because then you have whistleblowers who might let you know that, look, this individual appears to be living way beyond their means, and therefore there may be some need to cross-check what kind of sources of income they are benefiting from.
Adam Senanu, thank you very much for your time tonight. I'm sure we would get back to you again as and when we would need to speak to other corruption issues. We'll take more stories, and here Parliament has unanimously hailed leadership of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association for calling off its 2-week strike. Well, the decision by the nurses follows the intervention of the Health Committee of Parliament on Thursday. Well, the strike was over the implementation of their collective agreement. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association had earlier withdrawn all their services after a meeting with the sector minister yielded no results, leaving several patients stranded at various health facilities. Well, the decision to suspend the strike was announced by the president of the association, Perpetual Ofori Ampofu, during a virtual press conference.
Engagement held with the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health and other interested parties on Thursday, 12 June 2025, was very fruitful and has paved the way for an amicable resolution of the impasse with our employer concerning the implementation of our collective agreements. The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association's industrial action, initiated on 2nd June 2025, is hereby suspended, pending the outcome of the follow-up meeting scheduled for 26 June 2025.
All right, so tonight I want you to share with us how you feel about the nurses calling off their strike. Would you want to share any information with them? Just do so through our social media channels, and obviously we would make sure the rest of the world hears your voice also. Well, we'll look at other issues coming up tonight, and the Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga broke the news of the suspension of the strike to the attention of Parliament.
I am pleased to inform the House that the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association Council met yesterday after their deliberations with this House and issued a statement calling off their strike. And so I think that this House should collectively thank the leadership of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association and thank all the nurses and midwives for deciding to return to work. We have since communicated the decision to His Excellency, the President, and in the coming weeks, His Excellency has directed some meetings to discuss the demands that they have made of government.
Allow me to stay on the subject some more as chairman of the Health Committee, Dr. Market Nawani, on his part, assured the nurses that the legislature will push the executive to meet some of their demands.
Members of Parliament, we need to continue to fight to ensure that some of their requests, the executive arm of government will listen to them. There should be a point of intersection. There should be a point of agreement. And so we have fixed another meeting on the 26th of June. But they are back to work, and I want to thank all of you here. I want to thank Almighty God for making this thing possible.
MP for Fwasia Yerebi Kojo upon on his part lauded the decision by the nurses and commended Parliament for its intervention. Well, he admonished political actors to be measured in their comments during the strike. Well, Mr. Nkrumah further urged government not to go to sleep on the concerns of the nurses simply because they've backed down.
We are very grateful to them that though they have legitimate issues to raise, they have decided to take a step back, even as further engagements go on. Mr. Speaker, I also want to in particular commend Parliament. Parliament is often thought of as a house for debate and legislation and oversight. But it is refreshing to see that in turbulent times, Parliament also has the capacity to intervene and to create that safe space for negotiation and resolution of difficult matters. The fact that they are going back will not be used as an excuse to ignore all the concerns. They have legitimate concerns. They have been magnanimous. Let's also show good faith as a nation to them.
Well, Labour analyst Austin Game is joining us via phone at this moment to interact with us on this issue. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Game, for joining us. Well, first of all, let me find out from you, how are you taking the news of the nurses resuming their posts?
Well, thank you. Thank God the reasoning has prevailed, and both parties have agreed to continue the conversation. This was what we called for from the very beginning of the strike. So I'm happy they have gone back and to serve their customers who are the patients. So I look forward to both them and the employers meeting and resolving the rest of the differences.
All right, so you've cautioned the government against burdening employees further. Could you elaborate on what specific actions could be avoided?
Well, this I'm not too sure that is what I'm being quoted for. I don't empathize with one side normally, and so I expect that for purposes of negotiation, both parties will sit around the table and as stakeholders protecting the interests of their customers. They will do the needful by negotiating in good faith. And should they have any problem, there is always specific standards set out in our laws for them to use the process and resolve all their differences. So there will be no need for anybody to take any industrial action, let alone people suffering as a result.
All right, so Mr. Game, let me find out from you. Now, we're told by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association's president that they were compelled to suspend the strike after an intervention by the Health Committee of Parliament and other stakeholders. Does this suggest that the health minister and the association probably have a frosty relationship?
The government came as an employer into being some 5 months ago. Or 6 months, getting to 6 months now. So there cannot be any serious, frosty type of relationship under the circumstance. I've been in a meeting with the nurses several times. A number of contemplated actions were to be taken. We denied it because it shouldn't take place in the first place. We've always tried. Look, we came to the brink of a major strike action when the Honorable Kweku was in office. We had caucus start for hours and resolve the matters. The matters remain unimplemented until the government takes over now. So a lot of patience will be required. I empathize with the nurses. I empathize with the employer. The circumstance even now is going to get out of hand again. You see what's happening between Iran and Israel has changed the circumstance again. That's why they must share relevant information as to what is happening. Right now, we're buying fuel, we're buying oil at about 70 something. It's going to jump to 130 very soon if they don't stop the fight. So everything is going to get out of gear. And so everybody will have to learn to be patient and always observe the circumstance in which we find ourselves. That is why every agreement has a flexibility aspect in it. You don't hold on to anything exacted. I mean, we can decide to kill ourselves, and that'll be fine. All right. That's what we want.
Osingame, thank you very much for your time tonight. Well, let's still stay on the subject as the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yonu, has commended the staff of the police hospital for their dedication and hard work during the ongoing strike by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. Well, the IGP made the commendation when he paid a working visit to the facility together with members of the Police Management Board. I'm talking about POMAD.
The nationwide strike declared by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association (GHOne) on June 4, 2025 in protest over the government's delayed implementation of their conditions of service had a significant impact across various sectors, including the police hospital. According to the medical director, COP Dr. Otunyakun, the hospital experienced a more than 300% increase in patient numbers over the past week. To meet this demand, doctors on leave were recalled and contingency measures were swiftly implemented. On Friday, April 13, 2025, the IGP and the Police Management Board visited the police hospital in Accra to assess effort and the critical role of the medical team in maintaining healthcare delivery during the ongoing GHOne strike. The IGP expressed his gratitude, calling the staff true patriots for stepping up during a national healthcare crisis. He also highlighted the importance of the recently commissioned police hospital in Kumasi, which has played a key role in managing the overflow. The IGP GHOne pledged continued support to police medical facilities, urging all staff to maintain their commitment to saving lives and delivering quality healthcare.
Let's do other stories now. The minority in Parliament has accused government of constitutional breaches in the extension of the mining lease agreement with Goldfields Diamond Mines. Well, according to the NPP MP's Article 2681 of the Constitution, which demands that all minerals agreements be ratified by Parliament, has been breached. Government extended Goldfields mining lease by a year following its expiration. Addressing the media in Parliament, Minority Chief Whip Frank Anodompre demanded the agreement be brought to Parliament immediately for scrutiny, especially in ensuring responsible mining.
The government has extended the lease agreement. As we speak, the company is mining aggressively. Meanwhile, the undertaking, the agreement that has to come to Parliament for approval or ratification before the extension of the contract has not been done by this government. The government of the day is taking the people representatives for granted. It cannot be the case that you extend the lease or grant the lease. Then afterwards, you grant the lease, you extend it, you permit the company or corporate entity to mine, then late hour you bring the agreement to Parliament because you have 2/3 in Parliament and therefore you think that it's going to be rubber stamp. I think that is wrong.
Well, then, Samuel Adrejuri MP further questioned the government's commitment to reclamation of land and water bodies destroyed by illegal mining.
And we don't have to overly simplify this matter into galamsey fight. I'm speaking to responsible mining, sustainable mining. I'm speaking to water body reclamations, and I'm speaking to land reclamation because there are interconnectivities. Land reclamation has effect on food security. Water body reclamation has effect on waterborne diseases that will affect us. Government, hopefully maybe in their media, should make budgetary provisions to ensure there is land reclamation, there is water reclamation, and there is environmental sustainability by way of mining.
If you're just joining us, this is News Tonight. My name is Kweku. We're looking at some more local stories in here. The Ghana Journalists Association has commended President John Dramani Mahama on his decision to grant clemency to over 60 radio stations recently shut down by the National Communication Authority for expired licenses. Well, Communications Minister Samuel Nate George announced that the stations have some 30 days to regularize their status following the president's intervention. Well, the decision has now divided Parliament. While the majority supports the move as a chance to uphold media freedom, the minority has criticized it as politically motivated. That's more in the following report.
The Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Samuel Nate George, has announced a 30-day reprieve for over 60 radio stations previously shut down by the National Communications Authority, NCA, for operating with expired authorizations. The decision follows an intervention by President John Dramani Mahama, offering the affected stations a 30-day grace period to regularize their licenses. Addressing Parliament, Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Samuel Nate George, explained that the move seeks to balance media freedom with regulatory enforcement.
Our goal is not punishment, but accountability, order, and the responsible stewardship of a public critical resource. This is not routine housekeeping. This is a declaration against impunity, abuse, and inertia. The airwaves do not belong to the powerful and connected. They belong to the public, and we are duty-bound to govern them transparently and effectively. Our fight is not against free speech. It is against lawlessness, asset misappropriation, and regulatory defiance.
From the minority side, Matthew Nyindam, ranking member on the Information and Communication Committee, expressed cautious concern. He questioned the potential precedent the President's directive might set and urged that any resolution must still uphold the rule of law.
You said that the people have breached the law. In less than 4, 5, 6 hours, the President has come to tell you that please give them clemency. Are you telling me that the decision that the minister has taken, they never discussed it at the cabinet level and was President not in the cabinet? Sometimes we've gone past this kind of petty politics.
But a Futu MP, Minority Leader Alexander Penyomarking, went further, strongly criticizing the President's move, calling it an overreach which could undermine the authority of independent regulatory bodies like the NCA.
I would want to encourage Honorable Sector Minister to rather deepen the engagement process as directed by the President. Some of these belated actions for the purpose of optics will not help the cause of democracy. Stay away from the punitive actions.
In response, Majority Leader Mahama Yarega defended the President's intervention, describing it as critical and necessary. He called on the affected stations to use the window to settle outstanding fees and update their licenses.
If we sit in this House and laws are being violated and ministers are taking steps to enforce those laws, and we stand in this House and attempt to condemn those ministers, then we might as well stop coming here, because we are not here to make laws that should not be enforced. So when ministers are enforcing the laws, we should be the first to be commending them.
Adding an external perspective, the Media Foundation for West Africa, MFWA, criticized what it described as hypocrisy from some members of the minority who, the foundation argues, have been inconsistent in their stance on the matter. Suleiman Abrahima is Executive Director of the MFWA.
The position taken by my good friend, Honorable Penyomarking, is quite confusing, and I believe it is untenable. The NCA's decision, or the ministry's decision, is essentially about regulatory.
The Ghana Journalists Association and the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association, GHOne, have backed the intervention of the President. The GJA said shutting down the radio stations may seriously undermine media freedom and freedom of expression. GHOne's President Cecil Sonkwa Mills described the reprieve as his second chance and urged the stations not to waste it.
The absence of the President's clemency, how would these stations get a breather for 30 days? And this is why we need to look at new laws, look at working between the platforms that the NCA regulates.
As the 30-day window continues to tick down, attention remains focused on whether the affected stations will comply and what this moment means for press freedom, regulatory integrity, and political accountability in Ghana's media space.
Well, it's set for us to bring you the latest from our world of business. In business tonight, the International Monetary Fund, I'm talking about the IMF, has acknowledged that the recent appreciation of the cedi could influence future adjustments to Ghana's economic program. While speaking at a press briefing in Washington, the IMF's Director of Communication, Julie Kozak, explained that upcoming program reviews will provide an opportunity for the fund to carefully assess evolving macroeconomic and financial conditions, including exchange rate movements, to ensure that the program targets and objectives remain appropriate and achievable.
As we look at a program, we look at all of these developments, including, of course, developments in the exchange rate. And so future program reviews will provide an opportunity for the team to carefully assess all of the evolving macroeconomic and financial conditions, including exchange rate movements, and to ensure that the program's targets and objectives remain appropriate and achievable.
Want to stay on the subject some more? Joining us via Zoom is the Associate Director Financial Advisory, Deloitte, Dennis Brown. Dennis, thank you very much for your time. Let me find out from you. So what kind of revision can the cedi gains produce for us?
All right. So good evening to your viewers and listeners. I think this is quite intuitive. I mean, if you think of the fact that the IMF targets also revolves around our debt commitments and our revenue mobilization. These are two key parameters that certainly would have been affected by the gains that remain in terms of the exchange rate. So, government earns revenue from export activities, and certainly there are certain projections that they had made, perhaps based on exchange rates of around maybe 15, 16 in time past. And we are seeing that the dollar has come down significantly, maybe by 30% or more, and certainly the holes in the revenue projection. And that has to be looked at in terms of how that translates into the IMF targets. If you look at our debts as well, there are components of our debts that are linked to the USD, so our external debts, but payments ultimately comes from our cedi resources, and therefore the gains made there would also have been translated favorably to our debt commitments. And so, clearly you can tell that these targets shouldn't remain the same going forward. And as indicated by the IMF, going forward, they would have a holistic review of the exchange rate developments and how that impacts key parameters in terms of the target set for the government. And, therefore some revisions can be expected. Hopefully we continue on this path, and the revisions ultimately those that we can say are favorable to us.
All right, so some significant gains in there, but indeed a little bit of jitters coming in there when you look at Iran and Israel and the escalation. If you forecast into the future, do you think this could be inimical to us?
So to come again, in terms of what's happening in Iran and Israel,
in terms of oil prices, I mean, we're looking like this could be thrown overboard. You might not be an oil expert, but I'm looking at the figures here.
Of course, I mean, we earn revenue from export of crude oil, and in that space, we are actually price takers. Indeed, the OPEC countries are the ones that are the shakers and movers when it comes to the price developments in that regard. And so, as and when oil prices go up, we have a positive impact on our revenues. We've seen that oil prices has dropped significantly, or let me say notably, over the last few months, and therefore that has also contributed to the hole that we've seen in government projections. And I'm not surprised that government is also taking steps to plug some of those holes, including the de-levy that we are seeing. It's hard to take, but it's a prudent thing to do because government needs resources to properly manage the economy.
Dennis Brown from Deloitte, thank you very much for your time tonight. We move on to other business issues, and here the Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation, Samuel Nate-George, has highlighted Ghana's efforts to leverage the ongoing Expo 2025 in Osaka, Kansai, Japan, to enhance the country's cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and other relevant ICT innovations. There's more in this report.
The Osaka Kansai Expo, which commenced on April 13, 2025 and will run until October 13, 2025 for 184 days, features technologies such as carbon neutrality, digital innovations, and next-generation mobility. The Communications Minister emphasized the importance of heavy private sector participation from Ghana to form synergies with Japanese companies for the implementation of the 24-hour economy policy.
Our participation will highlight innovative projects and services by Ghanaian private sector organizations, from fintech and e-governance to digital health and smart solutions. These advancements are driving Ghana's digital transformation. They're creating jobs and improving lives. And we are excited to present them to the world, particularly to our potential Japanese partners.
Tracing the bilateral relations between Ghana and Japan since 1928, when Dr. Hideo Noguchi, a Japanese researcher, came to the then Gold Coast, now Ghana, to conduct research into yellow fever, the deputy Japanese ambassador to Ghana, Mitori Naoki, highlighted his government's preparedness to support Ghana in its 24-hour economic policy drive.
We all understand that the development of Ghana's ICT technology requires strong investment and business collaboration. Japanese are open for business, and we welcome increased collaboration between Ghana and the Japanese partners in this sector out of all African countries. Why Ghana is so popular among Japanese people? I could think of two main reasons for that. The first reason is Dr. Noguchi, and the second is everybody's favorite Ghana chocolate. Actually, this is Ghana chocolate.
The ministry is therefore impressing upon interested private sector companies to seek processes and facilitation to participate in the expo.
Well, the Chief Executive Officer of Unichem Ghana, Bashan Mohan, is calling for emerging businesses in the pharmaceutical industry to uphold quality and consistency as key pillars of sustainable growth. While speaking after an event commemorating the company's 60th anniversary, he emphasized that a firm commitment to excellence and refusal to compromise on quality is what distinguishes lasting enterprises from others.
To commemorate 60 years of dedicated service to the healthcare sector, Unichem Ghana, in collaboration with Luex Healthcare, organised an exclusive screening of the documentary All Together Now at the Silverbird Cinema. The film traced Unichem Group's journey and showcased the milestones that have defined its legacy in pharmaceutical manufacturing and distribution across Africa. Speaking to GHOne TV after the screening, Chairman of the Unichem Ghana Group, Raj Mohan, expressed heartfelt appreciation for the warm reception the documentary received.
I'm so humbled with the love and the happiness shared by everyone here. Everyone seated, everyone patient, everyone watching this history unfold. And the heroism that is on screen is the heroism in them all. That is how I see it.
Bashan Mohan also used the occasion to encourage budding pharmaceutical businesses to remain focused on maintaining high standards, especially in a highly competitive and sensitive industry like healthcare.
Consistency is king. You know, you will have your off days, you will have your bad days, you will think of throwing the towel in, you know, assess the situation at that time and think, well, if I do one more day, what's the big deal? And just tell yourself, if I do one more day, what's the big deal? And I think that's an easy way, because sometimes when you look ahead at life, it seems tiring, it can seem exhausting. But if you just look at it as a daily thing, it builds a habit within you that says, I'll go another day. And I think that's the most important thing.
As Unichem marks its 60th anniversary, the company's leadership continues to champion a message of quality, integrity and innovation, urging the next generation of pharmaceutical players to uphold these values in shaping the future of healthcare on the continent.
All right, so Benghazi has joined me. If you're looking forward to the latest in sports, he's got it all. Good evening, Benghazi.
Good evening to you, Kweku.
All right. So
have you heard that Anthony Joshua is in Ghana?
Of course, I am hearing all the euphoria at the airport and everything. I'm sure you have details of all of those.
Absolutely. Details of that plus some other stories coming up in sports after this. Division 1 side Golden Cake, Joseph Epton is confident of victory over Kotoko in the MTN FA Cup final. The Division 1 club faced the 9-time champions at the UG Stadium on Sunday in a final, looking to wrap up their fairy tale run in the championship. Golden Cake beat two top flight sides in Hartsufok and Karela en route to reaching the final of the cup competition. And Epton, the CEO, believes his side can get over the line when they also come up against the Porcupine Warriors on Sunday.
Well, for me, I always say football is all about merit. It's not about convenience. No? What is going to happen is that we are going to give our best on the field. We know they are going to give us a stiff opposition, which we are ready for, and we believe in that with our philosophy and our tactics. By the end of the 90 minutes, we are going to come out with the flying colors. We are going to win the game by 2 goals. We already beat the club with the most successful record in the FA Cup competition, which is Hartsufok. We already beat them. So it should be no news when we beat Kotoko.
Into boxing news, and two-time heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua has touched down in Ghana to throw his weight behind Sharaf Mohamed's boxing event slated for the GHOne Boxing Arena tonight. The ambitious boxing superstar was spotted cruising on a motorbike after arriving at the airport. And now, that's dressed in a crisp white shirt, Joshua looked relaxed and happy as he soaked up the warm Ghanaian welcome or reception. Joshua, who held the IBF, WBA, WBO, and IBO heavyweight titles and has 28 of the 31 victories in his professional for 25 knockouts, will be one of the major international stars at the Battle of the Beast event tonight at the GHOne Boxing Arena. The event is the brainchild of Sharaf Mohammed, son of Ghana's president, through his Legacy Rise Sports Promotion Company. Well, tonight, back to football, because tonight at 9:30 p.m. on GHOne TV, my colleague Monica Bukari sits and chit-chats with a former Black Queens player and coach, and also one-time a referee, Mercy Kweku, who tells her resilient story of how she overcame all the difficulties to get to her high. Let's check out a quick teaser of what you expect tonight at 9:30 p.m. on GHOne TV. And watch out for that one at 9:30 p.m. tonight on GHOne TV. A special feature by Monica Bukari, my colleague. That's it for sport. Back to Kweku for the rest of the bulletin.
Well, thank you very much, Benghazi, for all those. I'm not going to miss that. Well, let's quickly move on to the international front and get you some international updates. On the international front tonight, global oil prices have jumped after Israel struck Iran in a dramatic escalation of tension in the Middle East. Well, benchmark oil contracts, Brent crude and light sweet were up by more than 10% after the news emerged. But how does Israel's attack on Iran cause a global surge in oil prices, as traders are concerned that a conflict between Iran and Israel could disrupt supplies coming from the energy-rich oil region? Here's a News Desk report.
When crude oil prices rise, everything from transport to food costs more. And that's what we may be seeing in the coming days. Israel's latest strikes on Iran are already pushing up oil prices on the global market. Why? Because the Middle East isn't just a political hotspot. It's also one of the world's biggest oil-producing regions, home to some of the largest reserves on earth. Iran is the third largest oil producer in the region after Saudi Arabia and Iraq. In a worst-case scenario, Iran could disrupt the supply of millions of barrels of oil. Shortly after the news broke, the price of Brent crude surged by more than 10%, its highest level since January. And this could just be the beginning. Rising oil prices could trigger a broader conflict in the region, disrupting global energy supplies and stoking inflation. Investors are on edge. There's fear over how Iran might retaliate, whether U.S. targets are next, and whether critical oil transport routes like the Straits of Hormuz could be blocked. Israel's military says Iran has fired around 100 drones in retaliation after last night's major Israeli strike. President of Lipo Oil Associates, Andy Lipo, warns that if Iranian oil is removed from the market, prices could spike by $7.50 per barrel. Iran's supreme leader vows Tel Aviv won't go unpunished. Israel has declared a state of emergency, warning citizens to brace for immediate counterattacks. If the conflict drags on, don't be surprised if you're paying significantly more at the pump in the coming weeks.
All right, we would want to stay on the subject some more because of its impact on our nation. Well, joining us over the phone lines for a conversation on this is an energy expert, Kweku Poku. Well, thank you very much, Kweku, for joining us. Good evening to you. Let me find out from you. So how could a war between Iran and Israel disrupt global oil supply chains, Kweku? And also, let me find out from you, how does this escalate down to us or trickle down to us here in Ghana?
Well, good evening to your listeners. When we have crude oil price go up, it relatively goes into what you call the refinery, the ex-refinery. Now, what is interesting is that in the coming days, we have to keep an eye on what the flat price is. Normally, because we export crude oil and we import refined products, what really affects us is what you call the flat price. Flat is what the international trading platform for refined products. Now, any escalation in the Middle East, that's at this minute, Iran has retaliated against Israel. So as we speak, there are missiles floating or rolling on Israel. This might go on a couple of days, and it means that the market will be disrupted. This went from $64 a barrel to $74 a barrel at the end of the year. And we might have an extensive disruption in the market. What that means to Ghanaians is that in this immediate window, we will come on the 16th, we might not see a huge increase in the product, but I think the effect will be felt by the end in the window where the end of the week, which is the window that most likely the crude lifting going into the refineries will then reflect into the prices, which will probably pay the end of the month.
All right. So, Kojo, you could speak up a little bit louder for me, but let me also take advantage and ask my next direct questions. Most Ghanaians are sitting on tenterhooks with this information. Do you think that fuel prices could jump up in the coming days with this happenings between Israel and Iran?
It wouldn't be in the coming days. The volatility doesn't reflect immediately at our homes. You know, we have two windows by which we increase. The private companies have two windows within which they increase. They do these major reviews. Two of the reviews that are done is 1st of the month and then 15th of the month. So the next review is next week. I don't think that aside the 1 cedi per tax that the government introduced, we are going to see any significant increase in the 16th of June. But I'm definitely sure that if this disturbances and volatility in the Middle East continue, we will definitely see a major increase of about 14 cities later by the end of the month.
If this should happen, do you think the government should have a role to play, albeit a new government? Though, of course, we've had assurances that fuel price would not go up. You're not going to see fuel price going up. Do you think the government would have to back down on its words?
No, but nobody believed when the government said that. Do you think that you can add 1 cedi and later to prices and the price will not go up? I don't know where that statement came from. Nobody believed when the government said that if I add 1 cedi to a liter of fuel, nobody will see it. Of course we will see it. So aside the international happenings, if even nothing had changed, and the dollar, you see now the dollar went to 10, now the dollar is back 12. Today the dollar is around 12.4 if you want to buy dollar. Now with this disruption in the world, it could also affect our trade and affect the dollar as well. So we need to keep an eye on the international trading for the crude and then the fuel prices that we pay for the import, and also the local currency, whether it's still strong against the dollar or it weakens further. It has weakened from 10.8 to now 12.4 in the last week. If that continues, then like I said, we are looking to pay something around 14 cedis to a liter by the end of the month.
All right. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Well, that'll be about it for tonight's bulletin. We're grateful for your time staying with us throughout the week. The weekend is going to be fantastic. Do stay with us because this is the channel that you will get the education, information, entertainment that you are looking forward to. I am Dan. Good evening. My name is Kweku Temeng.